Welcome to the Straight Out of Home Video podcast, part of the Geeky Waffle Network. Hello, I'm Candace, and are you in or out? I have 3 people to discuss Aladdin and the King of Thieves. Bree, you there?
I am in.
You're in? Okay, Alice, are you in?
I am in.
Robert?
I am in because that Wolverine-style gauntlet that you're wielding is very scary.
Oh, it is. And let's just go into something that I was completely shocked about, was the villain of this piece is voiced by Jerry Orbach of Law and Order fame and Lumiere and Beauty and the Beast, and he is the one who put Baby in a corner. Did any of you guys realize that as kids?
Shocked to hear his voice. It totally threw me. To hear his voice actually and John Rhys Davies in the same film, I was blown away by the voice cast of this movie. Amazing.
Oh, I know. I was like, what is going on?
Who wants to try to give a summary of this movie? Bree, you do this.
All right. On the day of Aladdin and Jasmine's wedding, hordes of elephants come trampling in, destroying the palace, and lo and behold, it is the 40 thieves. And we come to find out that Aladdin is an orphan. Obviously, we knew that, but we come to find out more so of his sad past, and all he wants is to find out where his father is. And there is a staff that is the Oracle. And the Oracle allows one person to ask one question, and she will give one answer. And she gives Aladdin the answer of where his father is. And it is the King of Thieves, who he is. And it goes from there. I mean, it's a long summary, but it's full of childhood trauma and forgiveness.
I really like that spooky, sexy voice you did there, Brie. That was
You're welcome.
Very good. I don't know about you guys, but I really liked watching this movie.
It was great.
This one was actually really good.
Oh, it was a treat after Return of Jafar.
Oh yeah, Robert, did you watch Return of Jafar before this? Because we did.
I didn't. I've actually watched. My wife hadn't seen these. I grew up with both of these sequels, so I'm really into trilogies. So when they made the sequels to this, I was all about the Aladdin Trilogy, and I saw Return of Jafar a few months ago, so I didn't really need to revisit it, and it's pretty fresh in my head just in general. But this is definitely a step up from Return of Jafar.
Oh, most definitely. Okay, I have one question for you guys because the whole movie, it was on my mind, and it's something to do with Return of Jafar. The main royal guard, the one who gleefully wanted to behead Aladdin, is still on the payroll. Why? Why is he on the payroll?
I was about to say he was following orders.
but he gleefully wanted to kill Aladdin. He's like, this street rat. Dead finally.
Because he's voiced by Jim Cummings. I guess that's why. He was a huge Disney guy in the 90s.
And they also had his character design already done.
You're right.
But speaking of which, speaking of continuity, this takes place after Return of Jafar and then after the Aladdin series. And I was trying to find out why the series isn't on Disney Plus, and I couldn't find any reason yet.
Yeah, I was wondering that too, because I remember soon after Disney Plus launched, I was looking for it, and it's the only part of this Aladdin franchise that's not on there.
They might be releasing it after a certain time, because I know they're releasing movies they have later. Maybe just to keep adding content. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be a copyright problem. It happens all the time. But it doesn't make sense why they wouldn't have it if they have the Return of Jafar and the King of Thieves, but it might be that the TV release rights belong to somebody else. Although, I mean, it was on the Disney Channel, so you would think not, but
yeah, it gets mixed up.
Yeah, but it was. I mean, gosh, I was just really happy to be revisiting this movie. I'm so glad we're doing this because this was one of my favorite movies to watch as a kid. As soon as it started, as soon as the Party in Agrabah song started, I was I was right back in. I was 7 years old again, singing along to every word. I had the opposite, like when we talked about Return of Jafar before, where I was like, I don't remember most of this movie happening. Like, so much of this is missing from my memory.
Because it's not worth remembering.
But I was watching The King of Thieves, and every scene, every song just came back to me. It's so much more memorable. Even the animation is cleaner. Everything about it is better.
Oh, so much better.
I loved it. And like we said, the voice cast was amazing. Jerry Orbach is such a good villain voice. He's so good.
I cannot believe that this entire time it was Lumiere trying to kill Aladdin.
As soon as he started singing in the In or Out song, I was like, oh my gosh, that's Jerry Orbach, isn't it? Like, it didn't really click for me until he started singing.
I looked it up because I was like, okay, wait, I vaguely remember this villain. Suluk, I think is his name. And I was like, I remember his voice being so familiar to me as a child, but I didn't have access to IMDb when I was like 7. So
that would be that would have been useful for sure. I love learning stuff like that. Every time I watch a movie or I have IMDb pulled up on my phone so I can look up every actor that's ever been in it. And this was just full of good things. I really liked to talk about voice actors. That John Rhys Davies comes in to play the King of Thieves, and he's Gimli, he's Saleh.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I was like, I know that voice.
And I'm hearing Saleh the whole time he's talking, and I'm giggling because the character he's playing is basically just Henry Jones Sr. I mean, it was amazing. It's just Indiana Jones, but Aladdin form, and it's amazing. It's so good.
Did any of you guys watch Gargoyles?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, loved Gargoyles.
John Rhys Davies played like Macbeth in that series.
Yep.
So, I mean, I knew his voice from that as a child. I was like, no, that's Macbeth. Oh, speaking of that, apparently Sean Connery was originally signed up to be Aladdin's father.
Oh, because of course he was.
Of course.
Yeah, the character design is based pretty much right after him. And it's Aladdin in The Last Crusade is what this movie is, basically.
Yeah. Okay, well, speaking of family, the first idea for the storyline involved a villain from the Aladdin TV series called Mazarath. I vaguely remember him being this pale wizard who was like wanting power, I guess? I don't remember. Again, haven't seen the series since like the 90s. The plot will reveal that the heroes and villain were brothers. However, everyone thought they should steer away from the series, so then this could be like a standalone trilogy. I can't believe we're talking about this like it's a trilogy. It is a trilogy. And so they decided to do the father instead.
Interesting. I mean, it was nice to learn a little more about Aladdin. It was a really sad flashback that we got with little baby Aladdin, who is an orphan from very much so long. So it's like he's definitely grown up on the streets. I feel like that just hits you a little more hard, knowing.
Yeah, they never really explore like that in the movies before.
Right.
Like, this dude is like on his own as a kid and just like raising himself.
Yeah, and that emotional connection, that the backstory for Aladdin, he's not just some guy running around the street being very charismatic and shirt all open and everything, you know. He actually gets like character. We know a lot about Jasmine, or we know a lot about her like motivation and a lot about her like what makes her a unique and interesting person. But yeah, it really isn't until this movie, right, where we get, it's not just cool, I'm a thief Aladdin, but I'm a thief because I've been on my own, because I was left alone from an early age. You get so much more to him. It's nice.
No one adopted him. He was just shut out.
And it fits it fits with the deleted Proud of Your Boy number from the original movie that they brought back for the stage production.
Oh, that song.
Yeah, so it kind of, it fits, it completes the Aladdin backstory picture a little bit more as far as what happened to his dad.
It does. Oh, okay. So going back to voice actors, let's talk about Robin Williams.
He's back.
I was so happy.
He's back. He got $1 million for this direct VHS role. He also got an apology from John Roth for Disney breaching an agreement of not using his voice in merchandise or marketing.
Honestly, worth every penny Disney spent. Disney spent $1 million to get him back, and it was totally worth it. It totally showed in every inch of this movie. This.
Dan Castanello already recorded everything. And there was animated footage. And it all had to be scrapped.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
So all of the scenes were rewritten to fit Williams' comedic style. And of course, he improv'd a lot of stuff. Like that whole scene with Jasmine when he's trying to cheer her up. That's all Robin Williams.
Oh, you mean when he does Mrs. Doubtfire? Pretty much.
Hysterical. He's hysterical. I wrote that down. That's one of my notes. I was like, oh, look at that A+ Mrs. Doubtfire reference.
Honestly, this movie, you could turn it into a drinking game of just spotting all the pop culture references.
Well, it's not even just pop culture. In this one, it's all Disney references.
Yep.
Like there's the princesses. He turns into Pumbaa,
Pluto,
Tinkerbell at the very beginning.
Yep.
It's like constant Disney meta references. Basically,
it really is. And then I think at one point he says like, "Oh, I think I
had an out of movie body experience."
Yeah. Yes, thank you. I think that was after Pumbaa. And I was just like, oh, it's really going hard. I mean, the White Rabbit, I was like, took me out for a moment. Pocahontas took me out. I was like,
the Pocahontas joke after he says Geronimo a million times and then says Pocahontas, as a kid, had me rolling. I thought that was the funniest thing. And I looked at it just now and was like, well, that's something they had decided to include.
Yeah.
Well, there was a lot of things I did not understand as a kid, like the Rocky reference. And guys, do you guys want to talk about some of the inappropriate quotes from the genie?
I wrote one down. I wrote one down very specifically.
Is it? I thought
the Earth wasn't supposed to move until the honeymoon.
Yeah.
Yep.
I did not get that as a child at all.
Man. There was a lot. I was like, oh, they went for it.
Yep, he also says, somebody rub my lamp when he's really excited.
Ooh,
I was like, no.
Yep.
I did not catch that. But that's the beauty of it, is like, it goes over kids' heads.
100%. Like, that's why it's great going to see it, because you get the jokes that kids don't.
Oh, speaking of something I didn't get as a kid, in Party in Agrabah, Aladdin says the party is all for him. And now I'm like, excuse you, you were just the groom. This is about you and the bride.
Oh my gosh. On the same note, I made my first note that I wrote down in while watching this movie is Jasmine walks her own self down that aisle. I was so proud of my girl. Like, that is so good.
She had some Hermione moments of punching. I was like, yes, Jasmine.
That's who you go for, Hermione, with punching?
Well, it's because they made her also really docile. So
you don't expect it out of her, right? And then all of a sudden she's throwing fists in faces.
I know. And I was like, hell yeah, this is a Jasmine I want to see, not the one who's like, oh, Aladdin. I'm like, no, give me sassy Jasmine.
You know what what still is bothering me, though, is the same thing that bothered me about Return of Jafar, is that the conflict of this movie, or a big conflict of this movie, relies so much on Aladdin being a ding-dang liar. Just
yes.
God, I know.
Keeping secrets and not saying anything. And in Return of Jafar, at least, like, he is in the doghouse for it, like, a little bit. But in this one, he's like, oh, yeah, the King of Thieves, like, when he finally gets called out for his lie, oh, yeah, the King of Thieves is my father is the King of Thieves. Jasmine's like, oh, my God, that's so nice of you to bring him here. And I was like, Jasmine, no, he lied to you again. We just watched the whole movie about how that's bad.
And the whole thing is, like, he broke the law. Like, as a kid, I was like, yeah, no, they should totally forgive him because he did the right thing.
But he literally broke a wanted criminal out of jail. Like, that's bad. That's really bad.
Robert, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, after that initial sequence where Jasmine's sort of fighting back, she spends most of the whole rest of the movie just kind of sitting around waiting for Aladdin to return from doing things. And that really bummed me out too, as a big fan of the original movie where she has at least some agency. And then having the third one, the whole movie being about them and their quest to finally get married. And she's just sitting around being like, oh, I just want to be married. when is Aladdin coming back? And that's pretty much her arc, I guess, for this film.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
She throws a statue at some guys.
I mean, thank God she at least gets to go on that mission at the end.
Oh, true. She's
Yeah.
at
But it was more like an afterthought, which I didn't like. But I'm glad she got to fight. I was like, thank goodness she's throwing some punches, because they made her so weak. And in the first movie, what I liked about Jasmine was like, she had attitude. She was sassy. She was like, no, you're going to listen to me. She like had her tiger attack people that she didn't want to marry. You know, she was a baddie. And now I'm like, ugh, all right. This whiny girl.
She gets Padma'd by the end of her trilogy, basically.
Yes! Yes!
We're using that as a verb now.
That's so good.
But it's so true. That is a perfect reference, yes. Yeah. Also, did it not bother anyone that when Jasmine was sinking at the end of the movie, I'm like, the magic carpet's right there. Why aren't you on it?
Right, they're just sitting there. The carpet's sitting there like a person next to her on the roof.
Yeah, they're just like drowning, almost drowning. But I'm like, why aren't you on the carpet?
The carpet can hold like 6 people on it. Apparently, I don't know why they were bothering. That was so silly.
Oh, it made me upset. I was just like, really, Jasmine? Another thing I really liked about this movie was the bromance between Kazam and Iago.
Okay, so let's talk about Iago for a second. So the last movie, we see his redemption arc, I guess, for lack of a better term. He goes from the villain to a hero. But in this movie, he's just going all the way back. And if you don't see the series, you're like, why are they hanging out with this bird?
It was so silly. One of my notes here just reads, "Damn it, Iago!" Like when I wrote that down when he was helping the King of Thieves break in to get the Oracle. And I was just like, come on, Iago. Like, Aladdin stuck his neck out for you last movie. And you were supposed to be a good guy. And now your motivation is all the way back to stealing treasure all over again.
I think he's dining out on the fact that he's the one that kicked Jafar's lamp into the... into the fire or whatever at the end of the last one. So anytime they're ready to get rid of Iago, he's like, hey, who got rid of Jafar? I'm like, damn it. All right,
That's
Iago, welcome back.
But one thing he says to Aladdin's dad at the end of the movie, he's like, you're good, but you're not that good. And I was like, no wonder they're buddies, because they're in that gray area. They have heroic moments, but, they're not that great. Which I was like, all right, I kind of liked it.
What did you guys think about Aladdin risking it all to get his dad out of prison? Because I don't know. I was like, that's a huge risk, Aladdin. Like, I don't know. It bothered me a little bit.
It's a very Aladdin thing to do, though. Sorry, Brie, go ahead.
That's true. Yeah. But it's like, and he thought of it so quickly, too. I'm like, you got to plan this out, dude.
I mean, I kind of get it where he didn't want to see his father, like, waste away in a dungeon. He's like, all right. But, he's impulsive. Aladdin, he doesn't think. Obviously, he doesn't know when to tell Jasmine anything. He's a mess. He's a mess. But, I mean, a lovable mess, I guess.
Definitely. So, their whole quest, what Kasim, Aladdin's father, wants is the Hand of Midas, which turns anything to gold. And I guess they don't have that, like, tale to explain, like, why that's a bad idea.
Or, I guess if Midas isn't the fable or the myth in this, it's just an artifact that lets them do that. Like, the danger, obviously, of uncontrolled greed is the moral of the end of this, at the end of this. And the real treasure was the friends we made along the way.
Oh my God.
My real treasure is you.
My son.
As a child, I thought that was the most profound thing. I was like, mind blown. That's beautiful. How did they write this? But when the villain, Saluk, touches the Midas hand, he turns to gold. And that was kind of some body horror for kids. It's a little horrific.
He deserved it.
Damn, Brie.
Really,
I will have to say, though, when watching this, at the beginning, when you think Aladdin just straight up murdered someone, I was like, damn, they went there?
Yeah, and he's like, I'm sorry. I'm like, are you apologizing for murder? Then you see Saluk, like, he beats up a shark.
Oh, I know. Poor shark. He's just trying to survive.
So actually, okay, so in the trailer of several Disney home videos before the release of this movie, when Saluk and Aladdin are fighting, you actually see, like, blood on his arm. And because Saluk has, like, these, like you guys were saying, like, the Wolverine claws.
The Wolverine claws are so cool.
Parents complained that, what?
I said they're so cool, the Wolverine claws. They're amazing.
Yeah. The parents complained the blood was inappropriate because it made the movie seem too violent. So
okay, Karens.
Yeah. The blood spot was edited out before the release, but you still see Aladdin like clutching his arm. And I did think that was dramatic as a kid. I was like, oh my God, Aladdin's hurt. What are we going to do?
Well, I don't know. Aladdin just straight up murdered the guy afterwards. Just
totally murders some dude.
It was self-defense, guys.
No, I know.
It totally doesn't surprise me at all that somebody would complain about that. I was babysitting this kid once. We were watching Beauty and the Beast, which is a perfect movie. And and the mom came home right in the middle of the scene where the wolves are chasing Belle through the forest when she's leaving or when she tries to escape. And the wolves are growling and we're having a great old time. The mom comes home and is like, we don't watch this movie in this house. It's too scary for my kid. I was like, the kid's like 4 years old.
What?
Like, this kid isn't like an infant that's going to be traumatized or, like, it's Beauty and the Beast, for goodness sake. Like, what? So it doesn't surprise me at all that somebody would complain about like a drip of blood on Aladdin's shirt.
And this was back in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So people had to call or write letters or something like that, you know?
Some very serious, dedicated Karens.
What century did they live in? Because at their wedding, Cleopatra and Anthony were there, and I got really confused.
Oh, Bree, do you not know this theory?
Have you not
Robert,
heard the
do you
theory?
know this theory?
Yes, I do know a little bit about this.
Am I the one in the dark?
Yeah,
You
I
are.
think you might be. Do you want to go, Alice? Do you want to explain this to Bree?
No, you go ahead.
Okay, you guys add in if I miss anything, because I'm doing this off the top of my head. But you know how the genie has all these references to pop culture things, right, Bree?
Oh, yeah, the drinking game, yeah.
Yeah, the drinking game. Anyway, and he says he's been in there for 1,000 years. So the theory is, since Agrabah is not on any map and we don't know where it is, this is a post-apocalyptic wasteland. I can't say
apocalyptic.
So he says in the first movie, he actually says 10,000 years can give you such a crick in the neck. So he's been in there for at least 10,000 years. So the theory goes that this is actually like 10,000 years in the future, which is why he knows all of the modern references as well as can cite Cleopatra and all of them. Also, were Cleopatra, were they really there at the wedding? Or because the genie was narrating a red carpet and that he was also being some of the characters on the red carpet. Yeah. So I don't
think he was Cleopatra though.
No, they didn't. They looked like actual characters.
Like Thor?
Osiris.
Right.
And Thor too. Robert, you're a dad. Was that best dad joke ever?
Oh yeah, of course. All of that stuff.
You're Thor? Because it hurt.
Because it hurts, yeah.
No, that was great. I love it. I was like, all right, get some Joan Rivers vibe here, narrating the wedding. It was great. It just threw me for a loop because I was like, where are we in this land? And then there's a vanishing island with a turtle.
Oh, yes. That's where the Midas hand is.
Right.
And it's on an island that's never in the same place twice because it's on a turtle's back.
But it's a huge turtle, and it somehow... I mean, you would think you would see the shell with the island.
Are you trying to find logic in this movie, Brie?
You know what? I should not.
I was gonna say just quick on the references during the wedding. I love that Cleopatra and Caesar are there, and they're bringing a salad. As far as
yes, it was Caesar, not Anthony.
I love
correct.
that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's true. That's very funny. I was going to say the logic in this movie dictates that when you touch the Midas hand to the statue you're standing on, the whole room turns gold. But when you wrap it in your cape, in your cloak, only the cape turns gold and the rest of your clothes are fine. So logic, not this movie's strong suit.
You're right, because I would have assumed that the water would have turned just to solid gold, but it stayed yellow water.
I'd like to think that it was just reflecting the gold from around it, but it also might have just turned into liquid cold gold. I don't know.
Guys, is Raja in this movie?
Yes,
the
Raja.
Very end.
Yes, Raja carries the train of Jasmine's dress.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Just
That's
at the
it.
very end.
Damn it. No screen time for Raja.
I know.
A tragedy.
It really is.
Yeah, Jasmine says, I never had a real true friend. And I'm like, Raja's right there.
Oh, I know.
That's why you don't
Aladdin
see him
says-
through most of the movie. He goes off on his own little thing.
It's true.
Yeah, I guess when Jasmine's acting like that, I would go off too.
Oh, I know.
Well,
I'd be
Aladdin
like,
says
"Bye,
something
bitch."
like the same line at the movie too, and Aladdin's like, "I never really had a friend or family," and Apu's like, excuse you?" I was like, both of them. I guess they really are suited for each other, right? Both of them only had animals as friends.
That's another thing why it takes place in a future time, like when all the animals are more human-like and understand English.
Like Planet of the Apes meets Mad Max kind of deal.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It is interesting that really socially they only have one another. But maybe that's why he lies so much, because he doesn't know how to communicate.
Well, that's how he survived on the streets. We see him kind of will lie about stealing and stuff like that.
And why she doesn't know any better to call him out for his shit.
Yeah. She'll just take it.
They're both have no social skills.
None.
Devastating.
I hope that marriage works.
They're perfect for each other. And
fine.
maybe now that Aladdin is royalty by marriage, he can get rid of that guard that keeps trying to kill him.
Oh, I know. Gleefully kill him.
Well, you guys, do you realize that since his father, Kasim, is the King of Thieves, Aladdin has been a prince all along?
Oh my god.
Oh.
Are your
Robin Hood
Whoa.
style. With the Prince of Thieves.
Prince of Thieves.
That's so good. That's really funny. They really are meant to be together.
Yeah.
Look at that. Disney magic.
It's cute. I want to talk about, there was another note that I took talking about, I guess we can tie it to he's been royalty this whole time, but I want to talk about the theme that was running through this movie about with the song Out of Thin Air, and the idea that when Jasmine says I know him, I know your father because I know you, the idea of how powerful a bloodline is, or how your family is so much a part of you whether you want them to be or not, is a really hard stance for Disney to take in this.
Definitely.
And I think they've evolved past that since. It reminded me instantly of Rise of Skywalker, of of Rey and her backstory, and her family, and how she can choose, to avoid your destiny or whatever. But so this is obviously that's the opposite thing, but for Disney to take this stance of your parents are your parents and your family is your family, regardless of how you grew up with or without them, that's gonna be a part of you forever, is I don't know, it kind of didn't sit exactly right with me.
Yeah. Especially in the 90s when there's a bunch of latchkey kids and kids from just different homes.
Yeah, or adopted children, or
Yeah.
I mean, it's. I guess I get it. If you want that connection to your family or something, blood holding you to some sort of destiny or some kind of greater purpose or something. But this, I don't think was it. I don't think that was the right way to do it.
They could have done it a different way, if he was more having an existential crisis of, oh, my dad was alive the whole time, he left to go be, this King of Thieves, and she's it would have been better if she's he may be your bloodline, but it doesn't mean that his life, affects you or whatever. It could have been taken in a lot more progressive way.
I guess we could argue this is before, because the Oracle is being all Obi-Wan Kenobi from a certain point of view, says he is a prisoner of the 40 Thieves. So
trapped
it makes
within.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he thinks, so they all think, okay, well, Aladdin does need to rescue him. He's probably a great guy, probably been through some trauma, but we'll be one big fat happy family after this. But then after it comes out that he's the King of Thieves, the Sultan and Jasmine are like, no, we understand. You tried, but, it's not you kind of thing.
It's him. Although, I mean,
it's definitely him.
Yeah. Although Aladdin still has lying problems, so I don't know.
If I was Jasmine, I'd be worried with Aladdin's thrill-seeking that he's going to follow in his father's footsteps.
Exactly, and she just said, I know him because I know you, and now she's like,
Right.
okay, well, now I've met him, and he's a big bad criminal and has a tendency to
I'm
run
getting very
away.
worried about a wedding now.
Oops.
What are her children going to be like?
Listen, she was just like, he's the hottest guy here. I'm marrying him.
It's so true.
Hey, speaking of hot, Aladdin has a hot dad. I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh.
You're into
He's
daddy types.
a very hot dad, though.
No, I tweeted that. It got some likes. It's okay. I'm not the only one. Also, my friend Krista, she was like, she's using my Disney Plus account, and she's like, texting, she's like, Aladdin's dad is hot. I was like, yeah, he is. That was off topic. I bet I felt the need. I put a note in there.
You guys should say it. I mean, I'm definitely sure some people found him. Like, yeah.
So this film grossed $186 million, going from a different topic now, making it the fourth highest grossing direct-to-video animated feature of all time.
Wow.
So they got their money back from Robin Williams.
Yeah. That's $1 million for a direct-to-home video.
I
So
mean,
wait, fourth
totally worth it.
highest grossing direct-to-video
What are the
animated?
higher?
What are the other ones?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Let me see here.
Yeah,
if
I'd
I
like
can
to
find
know.
them.
I'm curious.
Are they all Disney? That's the other thing I'm wondering.
Probably.
Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. That's on the list, right?
For sure.
It has to be. That was a good one.
That one was it was good. Also, they made a huge deal about it when it came out.
Yeah.
Like that was everywhere.
Yeah, I can't find.
I'm gonna guess Little Mermaid 2 also. I'm gonna say Little Mermaid 2 also was.
Oh
probably
my god, I
on it.
cannot wait for Little Mermaid 2.
They made such a big deal about that when it came out, and we all rushed out to get it as soon as it dropped, basically.
Oh, this one too. I'm at my parents' right now, and my dad comes in, and he's like, "What are you watching?" I'm like, "The third Aladdin movie," and he's like, "They made 3 of them?" I'm like, "Dude, you bought me both of them. You spent your money
He didn't
on
know what
this."
he's buying. He's just like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, he's like, oh, "Okay, a movie for the kids. It's Disney. Whatever."
Sit down in front of the TV and watch it. Cool.
Yeah.
Yep. That was my family too, for sure.
Yeah, it's like,
But my mom loved Disney movies. She always did. If we were watching anything in the house, it probably had to be Disney. And she also really enjoyed talking about, we mentioned this before, but every time an animated movie or a kids movie has a joke that's just for the adults, it's her favorite thing. She's like, if I'm forced to sit here and watch kids movies with my children all day long, they better have something for me too. I cannot tell you how many times in a row we watch Shrek. Just constantly watching Shrek in my house. She thought it was the funniest thing. They used the word ass more than once, and she was like, this is great. This is appropriate for children, and I get to laugh at ass jokes. And so the honeymoon, the earth-shaking honeymoon joke, and my mom would have lost it. She would have been like, all right, we're going to watch this movie again because I need something. She stayed at home with both of us, and she just kids entertainment all the time without even stopping. So yeah, something like that. It's perfect for adults.
Speaking of grown-ups, at the end, when Aladdin and Jasmine are on the magic carpet after they get married, I was like, oh, they're like DTF right now. It was very intense. I was like, oh, I feel awkward looking at them.
It's a kids movie.
I know. I was like, guys.
Real quick to bring it back to the beginning of the movie, because I just recalled this. Couldn't the genie have put more effort into stopping the 40 thieves from stealing or ruining? Because
he was too busy
commentating,
being Joan Rivers.
I just thought that was I was like, all right, stepping in at the last minute, like America, sure.
I mean,
jeez, Bruce
wow.
got some
that was
burns.
Awesome. He literally could have snapped his fingers, and all 40 of those thieves could have been just back out in the desert. It's a thing that the genie can do, and he just doesn't.
I know. That's why I was like, what is going on? But and I was
the
like,
genie's bored, guys. He's bored. He needs some entertainment. He's like, I'm gonna see how this plays out.
not well. Definitely not well.
okay,
And the cuffs thing still bothers me a lot. I know we talked about it in Return of
Yeah,
Jafar.
Robert, we talked about this last episode, is that they put the cuffs back on him, even though it's a symbol of him being enslaved.
Yeah, that always bothered me too, actually, as a kid watching these.
Oh, speaking of costumes, Aladdin gets a street rat upgrade. Did you guys notice that? His clothes, his purple vest and his pants aren't like tattered anymore.
Ooh.
They're like upgraded.
Yeah, and he wore a couple of different outfits in this movie. Even his dad's cloak, you know, like we're really mixing it up for Aladdin.
Ooh, Aladdin and his dad's cloak was Trace Magnifique.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, well that's Ray's type. So, Iago calls Kasim at the beginning Zorro. How does he know who Zorro is?
That's a pretty
Genie,
good reference.
I guess. Yeah. The genie informed him, kept him up to date on things.
Yeah, I was like, I guess everybody's making references now.
There's no logic, Candace, remember?
Yeah. It takes place in the future. I love that theory.
It's an interesting theory, for sure.
One question I'm curious about, how does everybody think that Saluk compares to Jafar as a villain, since he's really the only main villain in this trilogy other than Jafar?
Well, he's better than Jafar was in Return of Jafar.
I was just about to say that, Candace.
Return of Jafar is admittedly not a great movie, but it's a guilty pleasure of mine because I love the character of Jafar, and I love his song in that because it's more Jafar. That's that much is clear. And as we mentioned earlier, the animation in this one is so much better. The Return of Jafar feels like a crappy TV pilot because that's kind of what it is for the show, really.
Yeah, that's definitely what it was meant to be, because we were talking about this last time. It's like they just wanted Iago on the show. So that's why Return of the Jafar was created, was to get Iago out of the lamp and into the show.
And it's the shortest movie ever. I think it's like 63 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised to see that this movie was an appropriate length for being a film and not just an extended pilot. This movie is like an hour and 35 minutes or something like that. Like a good length animated feature. There's no way that Saluk could be as good. Is that even his name? As good of a villain as Jafar. Like, I don't even remember his name really. And I just watched it. But I mean, he's not as memorable as Jafar. His character design was really cool. The Wolverine claws were excellent. Made him really like on screen noticeable. But he was not as menacing or as dangerous as Jafar was. Jafar was just a really good villain, and just like an A+ top tier Disney villain.
Well, yeah, he had a stronger motivation as well.
Yeah.
You know, here we get he doesn't like Aladdin's dad, but I want to know why.
He has a name, Kasim.
Kasim.
Well, he says, were you not paying attention to the best song ever? Are you in or out?
Yeah.
He says, like, he didn't like because Aladdin's dad is soft, you know?
Well, I know, but that to me
is a managerial style thing.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Like, so, I mean, like, okay, so it's like Office Space, but Aladdin? Like, to me, that's not a strong enough motivation. That's why I was like, there has to be more to that story, you know? They could have.
Kasim probably stole his girlfriend or something. We don't know.
Well, he is modeled after James Bond, after all.
I think it's smart that they went with someone like Saluk as opposed to the character that you mentioned, Candace, from the animated show, because if he was indeed a wizard, that's too close to Jafar. Like,
that's
at least,
very true.
You know, Saluk is more of like the brawler, like kind of a Bane type physical threat, as far as, you know, more of a and less of a strategic, you know, puppet master style scheming. So I think that was a good way to mix it up.
That's a good point.
I think I vaguely recall, because I lied. I did watch the Aladdin series when I babysat. I remember Iago called that character Jafar Jr. So that's a very good point, Robert.
Yeah.
And he was just like an angsty, pale wizard.
Kylo Ren?
I was thinking Anakin, but yeah, I guess Kylo Ren would work
Ouch.
too.
I don't know how to rank these or even grade these.
Well, it's a step above Return of Jafar, so I think
most things are.
I think
a
that's
pretty big step, maybe.
a large step, yeah. So I think this is number 1 so far.
Yeah, definitely. But would you guys watch this if we didn't have to do this podcast? We don't have to do this podcast also, but like if we weren't recording this, would you watch this for fun?
This one I would.
Yeah, this one I would revisit, not just for the nostalgia factor either. I thought it was fun. It was definitely.
Robert, will you show this to your kid?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, my wife and I, because I grew up with the whole trilogy, I showed her these sequels like last year, a few months ago or whatever. Just because I love that first film so much, and also after the live action one, I'm really hoping that they take some of the inspiration from the sequels, just as far as taking Arabian Nights and that kind of mythology and building on it in the way that kind of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise has just borrowed from that kind of mythology, Davy Jones, the Black Spot, and kind of sprinkled it in throughout, done its own version of it. I hope that that's what they do with the live action ones. So, because I think there is that idea has a lot of potential too.
I completely agree. There's so much that could be done there. I mean, gosh, 1,001 Nights, right? Like there's so many stories and so much like lore around the idea of the story of Aladdin and Sherazada and all of that. Like there's so much could be done. And I think a King of Thieves sequel for the live action Aladdin would be perfect.
So, Robert, can you tell people how to find you on the internet?
Yeah, you could find me on Twitter at Crooked Table. You can find the Crooked Table podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, crookedtable.com. I have a lot of stuff going on. So a lot of great episodes coming up in the weeks ahead. We're continuing with our Harry Potter, revisit through that franchise as well. So.
Oh no, I'm gonna have to watch a Harry Potter.
Yeah, you are.
I mean, like, oh no.
I'm mad at her.
I know, but that's not. Harry Potter wrote Harry Potter.
That's not how it works, Brie.
It is my head.
Alice.
Harry Potter's a historical figure, yeah.
Alice, why don't you plug your podcast?
Sure. Well, I got a couple. Buddy Duquesne and I host a couple of podcasts. We just put out a new episode of Those Happy Places, which is a podcast about theme parks, rides, and attractions and why they deserve to be thought about as literature. We are doing a series right now on why sports and sports teams and sports games are like mini theme parks, and that's been really fun to do. We just wrapped up a series on the Enchanted Tiki Room called Birds of Paradise, which I think people would like if they like Disney and stuff like that. And a new episode of Rogue Fun, a podcast story, is going to be out in the next week or so. We watched Rogue One, a Star Wars story, for the podcast Rogue Fun, a podcast story. And yeah, that should be coming out. And all of those podcasts are available wherever. Rogue Fun's even on Spotify now. And I'm on Twitter and on Instagram at Alice White THP for Those Happy Places.
My Twitter is Candace is a Geek, right?
Oh man, it's just my name, which is long. It's Brie Osmude, which you can't spell that knowingly. Maybe I'll make it simpler at some point.
Okay. Well, thank you all for taking your time to talk about pretty good film. I have a feeling, though, a lot of the other movies are not going to be able to compare. So we'll go to that. We'll get to that. I hope you all have a happily ever after until the sequel.